Alabama and St. John's. Of course, Rick Pitino going against Nate Oates. This is Saturday at noon. Talk about a great college football schedule, but I think this college basketball game beats it all, and this is why we have Emilee here with us today. So obviously we're going to preview this game, and we're going to go over everything that people need to know about the Crimson Tide and the Red Storm. Emilee, I'm going to defer to you now. For Alabama's sake, let's start with this. Look, no Grant Nelson anymore, no Mark Sears anymore. It's definitely a new team with new leaders. What have you seen out of the program so far this season? And I'm also going to take you full as well.
Awesome. These freshmen have been something to watch. London Jemison and Amari Allen each had 12 points against North Dakota on Monday. And obviously that's not, the most overwhelming opponent that you're going to see on this Alabama schedule. But I think that the way that these freshmen have risen to the occasion, especially considering the circumstances that Alabama found itself in for that season opener, you're down 3 key players. Latrell Wrightsell Jr. out with a finger injury, not his ACL. ACL's A-okay. Aiden Holloway with a wrist injury flare-up, and then Keaton Bristow, one of those key transfers coming in from Tarleton State. He's booted with an ankle injury. I think it was a sprain, I want to say. But the way that these guys stepped up and were able to perform with their back against the wall, they've been something that's really exciting to watch. There's a lot of potential for this front court, but this Alabama team is really just, in the season as a whole, is only going to go as far as their front court takes them, in my opinion. You have Taylor Bowen coming in from Florida State, Noah Williamson transferring from Bucknell, and Noah's shown a lot of really good potential, really good at setting screens, but Nate Oates has said that he wants to see a lot more out of Taylor Bowen. He didn't have an offensive rebound in the last game, only had 2 against Furman. And it's a lot easier for Nate Oates to remember those games where Taylor has none. So it's going to be huge for them to get some offensive rebounds, especially if they're in the Garden against St. John's.
Yeah, and you make a good point there. Obviously, Zuby Ejiofor, one of the top I don't know what position you'd consider him. He's on the Kareem Abdul Award watch list, but I really wouldn't consider him a center. I mean, the guy just moves like a forward for St. John's. Look, last year, St. John's, they showed it on defense. They're going to play physical. They're going to play tough. This year, they brought in some more three-point shooters, so they're going to be more of a threat from deep as well. With that kind of going for St. John's, Emilee, how do you think Alabama is set to defend them? Because we know that Alabama is going to score the ball, but what do they look like defensively against a St. John's team that is going to be physical and they're not going to be afraid to let it fly?
I think that their best defense is going to be their offense in this case, especially with how much Alabama has turned the ball over in these first few games. Obviously, that's not anything that's uncommon for this Crimson Tide team with how fast they play. Turnovers are pretty normal, pretty commonplace, but there's still way too many for Nate Oates, and honestly, way too many, 15 per game so far this season in exhibition play and against North Dakota on Monday. Way too many to get out of St. John's with a win if they were to turn the ball over in the double digits.
All right, we got one more for you as well. Obviously, before we make our picks for this game, St. John's and Alabama. St. John's, a program that used to be very, very good, had a very rough stretch. Rick Pitino has kind of revived them. Alabama, you could sort of say the same thing in a different way, right? Just a real rough stretch for some years. Nate Oates has revived them. What is the hype around this matchup? Because we know that St. John's and Alabama don't really have a big history of playing each other. But from your perspective, down in Alabama country, I mean, how geared up are they? How hyped up are they for going against the Red Storm?
Oh, they're very excited to go against the Johnnies. I cannot say enough about how hyped this entire city is. I mean, like, it might be football season, but Nate Oates has really made basketball a whole beast of its own down here. No room for football, only Gumps anymore, as they say. So it's been really exciting down here. Everybody's really excited for them to go to New York. But also, I think that everybody's excited to see Nate Oates go against Pitino again because he's 1-1 against him while Pitino was at Iona. So I think that it's really exciting for these two to get back against each other on the court. And I'm sure there's one guy who is from iBob Twitter, as we call it, and he runs the Nate Oates technical counter. So I'm sure that he has that ready for this weekend.
It's going to be a fun one for sure. All right, let's get to our game picks. Emilee, probably know who you're going with, but who do you have in Alabama at St. John's?
I'm still going to go with Alabama. I know that this team could be shorthanded, but these freshmen have so much potential. I know I've already talked about Amari Allen and London Jemison, but Davion Hannah too. I mean, he had one of those dunks that makes you cuss. So it was against North Dakota. So I'm really excited to see what these guys can do. And not only that, but also the freshmen are a little bit harder to scout, right? So I think that if they continue to have the chemistry that they've had so far, I think that it's going to pay off for them really well in the long run. And I also think that, sitting Latrell and Aiden sitting Latrell and Aiden on Monday is really going to have paid off. Nate didn't really sound incredibly optimistic that these guys were going to be back for Saturday, but at the same time, I think that it was a precaution so that way he could at least play them with some limited minutes whenever the going gets rough. So give me the Tide.
Ariel?
Yeah, it's going to be a fun game. Both teams top 20 in tempo. Expect this game to probably be in the 80s, even 90s. Phylon's going to be the key in this game. He could score 25 easily. I think he's going to dominate those St. John's guards. My question is Alabama's forwards. How are they going to defend against Dylan Mitchell, Bryce Hopkins, and Zuby Ejiofor? We haven't really seen it. And like you mentioned, they're young in that department. And that's my biggest concern. Because of that, like I said, it's going to be a close game, but I'm going to lean the Johnnies here.
I'm going to go St. John's as well. I think when it comes down to it, it's who I'm more comfortable making a stop and a big one.
Yeah.
And I think St. John's is just a much better profile defensive team. They have a lot of versatility. That's Rick Pitino's calling card. So I think when it comes down to it, it'll be a close game, a super entertaining NBA style game that St. John's is able to win in like the situational crunch time moments.
Yeah, I'm also going to go with St. John's here. So it is going to be 3-1 in favor of St. John's. Look,
I'm used to it now.
Nah, but I do think it's going to be a good game. In seeing what St. John's did against Quinnipiac, and you don't want to take a lot of stock in that, but Quinnipiac was a great team last season. They brought back their leading scorer. They held him to 10 points in that first game. They scored the ball like crazy. And again, that 3-point shooting that they added that they did not have last season, to me, that just brings St. John's to a whole new level. But yeah, this is going to be a fun one on Saturday afternoon.